If you find yourself in the same situation that I'm in right now, fishing an infant indicator or heavy streamers, and you want to spend less time doing this and more time doing this, then these casting tips will hopefully solve this problem for you. Okay, heavy flies. I'm talking indicator rigs, split shot, tungsten, big bobbers, even heavy streamers, teams of flies on lakes, anything where you're throwing more weight than like a single dry fly. Any of these casting tips are going to help you. Fishing in rivers or lakes. The first one we're going to talk about is river specific, and it's the water-loaded cast, or any kind of water-loaded cast you'll do in a river. So I've got 2 nymphs in this rig and a big foam indicator, and this technique works perfect for casting this kind of rig. So it's called a water-loaded cast. Some people call it a circle cast, but it's just a big water load cast. Once my fly's down below me and it's finished its drift, what I can do is use the surface tension of the water and use the current to add tension into the line. I can then use that tension to spring it upstream. It's really nice and easy. So all I'm going to do is let that line drift down below me, gently lift the rod and feel that weight and feel that tension from the river pulling on the line. And then it's a very simple flick upstream, and that surface tension loads the rod and flicks it straight upstream. I can then continue fishing, throwing mens or high sticking or doing whatever I'm doing. Once that fly ends up drifting all the way down below me, I can do it again. It's down below me, it's finished its drift. I'm going to lift the line slowly, use the surface tension of the water, flick it straight back upstream. Nice and easy. Now the water-loaded cast is great for short distances, and it's really nice and easy if you're first starting out, but it's not very good at changing directions very well, and it's not very good at distance. So let's look at the roll cast next. Now another great cast for heavy flies, especially this indicator rig, is the roll cast. I've done a full video on roll cast which you can check out later, but I'll recap it here. It's another water-loaded cast, and it's really good if you haven't got any back cast room. I'm pretty right here, but I'll just show you anyways. We're going to form the D-loop, bring that rod up to your ear, have that anchor on the water, and push forward. Nice and simple. So again, slow lift, and you come to the key position, which is like you're taking a phone call, have that D-loop hanging off the rod tip, and roll forward. The reason a roll cast works really well with heavy flies, and especially nymph and indicator rigs, is it keeps the flies separated in the air. Unlike an overhead cast where those flies have a chance to hit the rod and collapse on each other, the roll cast rolls everything over nicely and keeps all the flies spread apart. It also, if I had trees behind me, there's no way I can do a back cast. Now I can use these casts in conjunction with each other. I can use a water-loaded cast and a roll cast to change direction if I need to. That flies at the end of its drift, so I can do my water-loaded cast, and then straight away, I could go into a roll cast if I need to change direction. And now I'm out in the current where I want to fish, right? I can mend, I can high stick, I can fish my run, hopefully catch a fish. Once it gets to the end, let's try another one. So that's at the end, lift up, water-loaded cast. That's nicely set there. It's going to set my anchor for the roll cast, D-loop, change direction. Really nice and easy, keeps the flies spread apart, and if I have no back cast room, that's a killer. So that's the water-loaded cast and the roll cast. They're great techniques for fishing in rivers at short range, or if you've got limited back casting room. Eventually though, we're going to need to cast further, and the roll cast has its limitations. Or if we're fishing a lake or a bigger river like this one, we're obviously going to need to do our standard overhead casts. Now if you're coming from fishing dry flies or you're not used to throwing heavy flies, the standard false cast that you've been practicing with a few changes can work really well with heavy flies. What we've all been practicing though for years and throwing tight loops doesn't work too well with the indicator rigs or heavy flies. When the fly leg of the loop and the rod leg are really nice and close together, throwing a dry fly is perfect. When we've got heavy flies on though, that tight loop collapses onto itself and has the potential to hit the tip of the rod. And if we're fishing heavy flies or tungsten beads, that rod can break and we don't want that at all. So, with our overhead casts, it's really important to have a wide loop. You can see when I'm casting here, that loop shape is really nice and open. I'm still stopping abruptly, but I'm not closing that loop and trying to throw really tight laser loops. The same idea how the roll cast spreads the flies out in the air, the same is true here. We're trying to spread the flies out in the air with an overhead cast. And we can do that with open loops like that. It's also really important with heavy flies to make sure we're pausing long enough to let that fly turn over in front and behind us. If I don't pause long enough and I go nice and quick like this, it's just gonna snowball into a big mess, and that weight and that heft in the leader is just gonna collapse into a big pile. So the fix for it, open loops and pause, slow everything down. Make sure that turns over behind you and it's gonna roll out nicely in front of you. Like the roll cast, how I can use a few of these casts together, I can use a water-loaded cast. As soon as that fly touches the water, I can pick it up and start false casting. That water-loaded cast is really versatile to lead into any of these other casts. Now the last cast we'll talk about is called the oval cast or the Belgian cast. It's called two different names, but it's the same thing. Now, this cast is really handy for fishing on lakes with a team of flies. If you're fishing 2 streamers or 3 flies or something like that, it works really well with an indicator rig also, but the main use for this cast is fishing streamers. The oval cast, like the name suggests, the fly rod and the fly line travels in a big oval or a big arc. On the back cast, I'm going to draw my rod relatively flat to the water. As I'm coming to the end, I'm going to kick the rod up so the flies clear my head. Once that fly line's turned over behind us, I'm then going to come forward over the top and make sure those flies clear my head way above me, right? So all together, it's the same tempo for a false cast, but I'm going flat and then over the top. Flat, over, flat, over, flat, over. Notice how when I go over the top, those flies are absolutely miles above my head and the rod. So flat, over the top. That oval again spreads those flies way apart of each other, especially if you're fishing 2 streamers on a lake, if there's wind blowing, if we're trying to shoot line, those flies are clearing our head and it's really nice and safe as well. Now this is the cast if you're going to be fishing with heavy flies and you need to gain distance. The false cast, the standard overhead cast where we've got nice and open loops, those hard stops can sort of feel a bit aggressive and a bit, you know, not quite as comfortable. Where this oval or Belgian cast is called a constant tension cast, where the fly rod never comes to a hard stop. Like our false cast, it's always in constant tension. It's always moving in a big oval. So there's no hard stop. It's just flat, over. There's no harshness. I can shoot line nice and far, and I can gain a lot of distance with heavy flies. Hopefully those few tips on casting heavy flies is going to help you out in your fishing. And I like everything in fly fishing, it's a skill that needs practice. So make sure you actually practice with heavy flies instead of just cast with a dry fly or a piece of yarn or something like that. Put some weight on the end of your fly rod and go and cast some big flies.